Who is he? Zombie Wolverine is one of the countless superheroes infected by a virus that turned him into a violent flesh-eating cannibal. He made his first appearance in the pages of Ultimate Fantastic Four number 22 back in 2005. He comes from Earth 2149, but his life prior to the infection was very similar to his main universe counterpart from Earth 616. Of course, all of that changed when an alternate version of the hero known as the Sentry came to Earth and infected dozens of Earth's mightiest heroes, turning them into unstoppable flesh-hungry savages. In the early days of the pandemic, Wolverine and his fellow X-Men battled an infected Alpha Flight at Professor X's school for higher learning. During the battle, the mutants were saved by their former rival Magneto, who was one of the greatest resistance fighters at the time. Knowing this threat was far greater than themselves, the mutants put their differences to rest and teamed up to combat the zombies in the streets of New York. Now, whenever Magneto and the X-Men put stuff aside, you know it's going down. So dope. I love it. The epic team-ups would continue as Nick Fury then contacted the still human heroes and had them all gather aboard the S.H.I.E.L.D. helicarrier so they could strategize on how to put an end to things. The likes of Reed Richards and Tony Stark were tasked with finding a potential cure, while Wolverine was part of a ground team sent to combat the Horde and keep them at bay. It was during this mission that Logan was overwhelmed by a zombie Colonel America and Hawkeye, who simultaneously bit the mutant, infecting him with the virus. While normally his healing factor would prevent a disease like this from affecting him, it was sadly no match for the otherworldly power of the virus, thus transforming the warrior into a member of the Cannibal Legion. I can't say I necessarily agree with this, as Wolverine should be immune to just about every disease. But hey, it's honestly probably just me being a little selfish. I would have loved to have seen the guy be a long-term resistance fighter, just slicing up zombies and regenerating the chunks of flesh that bite out of them. Imagine a video game where you're just taking apart zombies as Wolverine. Now that would be awesome. Okay, fanfiction over. The now zombified Logan and his fellow cannibals then discover that an uninfected Dr. Doom was harboring Latvarian refugees at his castle and had even constructed a portal to lead them to safety in another dimension. The hungry gang then stormed the castle to get access to these refugee sandwiches. Ash Williams, yes, the groovy man from the Evil Dead movies, was also here at this time and consulted the use of the evil book known as the Necronomicon. He used it to summon and resurrect the half-eaten corpses left behind by the zombies, turning them into an army of Evil Dead. The Deadite Legion then arrived at the castle and went to full-on zombie-on-zombie war with Wolverine and the others, only to be quickly sliced down by the hangry mutants. I mean, what do you think was going to happen? These zombies just have hands. Wolverine's a zombie with hands and claws. Zombie Wolverine for the win. As the Horde breaks into the castle, Ash and the refugees manage to escape as Doom destroys the portal. Before getting away, Ash threw the evil book at the zombies so it could be eaten, only for Wolverine to tell it they only eat flesh and proceeds to give it to the Hulk. Hulk then proclaims that since they do eat so much of that yummy gummy meat, they do poop a lot and can use its magical pages as toilet paper. I actually felt pretty bad for the Necronomicon here. Definitely scarred for life after this one. Upon Doom's destruction of the portal machine, Reed Richards infects him and repairs it. He is then able to use it to communicate with and trick a younger alternate version of himself from the Ultimate Universe to come to their world, thinking that they would be able to work on projects together. Instead of having a little dimensional study and chill date, the young Reed was terrified upon entering this dimension, seeing that had been ravaged by hordes of undead supers. He managed to escape the zombified Fantastic Four, where he is then saved by Magneto, who led him to safety with a small band of survivors in the subway tunnels of New York. Thinking that they were safely packed away from the gaze of the super cannibals, the group would soon be in danger as Zombie Wolverine just happened to be out on patrol. He was able to use his heightened senses to smell the sweet taste of living flesh and led his band of fellow undead brothers right to the survivor camp. Magneto then uses his abilities to whack the Horde with a subway train, where they proceed to escape. My boy he just stays winning. With the aid of the other Ultimate Fantastic Four members, Magneto is able to hold off the zombies, where he then leads the remaining humans to the portal, who get away to the Ultimate Dimension with the Fantastic Four. He says his goodbyes and proceeds to blow the machine up, locking him in the zombieverse, surrounded by Wolverine and a group of angered undead. This then sets off an intense chase between Magneto and the zombies, who were quite adamant in turning the Master of Magnetism into their latest snack. Despite being insanely exhausted, Magneto still proved he had plenty of fight left in him, as he managed to cut Colonel America's head in half with his own shield, decapitated Hawkeye, and even brought an entire building upon the Avengers. My dude is OP. Like I said, he stays winning. However, Magneto then gets a little too caught up in the moment and proceeds to gloat, but not before Zombie Wasp came in and bit out his throat. Oh no, I'm speaking in rhymes! Wasp then held the immobilized Magneto as Wolverine and the others swarmed in and completely devoured this former villain turned hero. RIP to one of the coolest X-Men characters ever. After their magnetic meal, Logan and the gang kick back, wondering where their next feast would come from. As all hope seemed lost, thinking that they had picked the world clean, Wolvie and the gang then witnessed the arrival of the Silver Surfer, who came to announce the arrival of his master Galactus, who intended to consume the entire planet. Not listening to a word shiny Mr. Clean said, the zombies leapt at the chance to get a bite of the chrome-plated warrior. As they attacked, the Surfer proved he was much more than a cool guy on a flying surfboard, and proceeded to zap his assailants with waves of cosmic energy. He even blasted Iron Man right in half, who, despite no longer even having a full digestive tract, still tried to take a bite out of the man. Disgusted and disturbed, the Silver Boy then chucks Zombie Tony off his board, who falls into the streets below. I love how this panel is drawn. It looks like he's just kind of inconvenienced that someone would even dare touch him or his surfboard. It's like he's some snooty waiter throwing someone out of a fancy restaurant. I love it. Never change Silver Surfer. Zombie Thor then comes thundering down with his makeshift hammer and knocks our Chrome Boy off his board, causing him to come falling to the ground. The Surfer then proves the tank that he is by cranking up the intensity and continues to blast more undead, killing several of them in the process. Wolverine, thinking this was his time to shine, jumps into the fray and lunges at the Surfer Hugh Jackman style. This causes his adamantium claws to scrape up against the Surfer's near indestructible skin, causing his bones to tear right out of his skin. Yeah man, I'm no doctor when it comes to Wolverine biology, but I don't think that's supposed to happen. Wolverine then reminisces over his lost healing factor, which was overpowered by the virus, and then proceeds to just pull the remaining bone and flesh from his wrecked arm, and just cuts the rest of it off. My man, giving even Deadpool a run for his money. He then comes across the remaining better half of Iron Man, who asks the mutant to toss him back into the fight so he can get another taste. The pair then do their best Aragorn and Gimli impression, as our boy Logan whips the undead billionaire back into the battle. That's true friendship right there. As the Surfer continues to defeat more of the Horde, none other than a zombified Hulk evens the playing field and joins the fight. He proceeds to grab the shiny man and bites his head clean off, causing all sorts of static electricity looking gore to just come pouring out. Wolverine and a handful of the boys then manage to claw their way, pun intended, to the Surfer's chrome-plated corpse, where they then help themselves to a nice silver-wrapped dessert. Upon consuming the poor spaceman, the gang see that this was some pretty nutrient-dense food, where they discover they gained his incredible abilities, which allowed them to shoot cosmic blasts out of their hands. They then decide to become cosmic chefs as they fry the rest of their zombie compatriots with these new powers to see if it made them taste any better. But alas, they discover that no matter how much you cook a zombie, dead meat is still dead meat. It's like trying to reheat a McDonald's burger in the microwave that's been sitting in the refrigerator for a few days. It just doesn't work. Once they finish eating up their buddies, the Cosmic Zombie Bros then discover that Shiny Man was telling the truth, and the world conqueror Galactus had arrived to the planet, announcing its destruction. Seeing that they had just won the giant fleshy lottery, the zombies tried to attack the space giant, only to realize he was about as tough as a Dark Souls boss. Seeing that retreat was the wisest choice, our one-armed Wolverine and the group escape to Hank Pym's lab, where he, Bruce Banner, and Tony Stark make a machine that could channel all of their cosmic abilities into one unified beam. They complete the weapon, aim it at the big boy and fire, causing a huge obligatory blue comic book laser to shoot out and strike the guy, causing him to scream out in pain and come tumbling to the ground. Seeing that the hard work was now done, a gang of zombie villains come out of hiding, all ready to help themselves and mooch up the hero's food. They are then intercepted by Zombie Wolverine and the Avengers, who let them know that this hunt was all theirs. The boys then go to zombie war with their former rivals, which results in Wolverine going up against a zombified Juggernaut. Despite being one of the most powerful mutants around, he was no match for a cosmic-fueled Logan who jammed his claws right into Juggernaut's mouth, activated his powers, and flicked the dude's giant head right off like it was a pimple.
Fatality. Wolverine wins.
Now in zombie rage mode, Cannibal Wolvie and his gang of merry flesh-eating men then proceed to kill the rest of the villains, including the likes of Sabretooth and Dr. Octopus. Galactus then proves he is not quite dead yet, as he gets up, swearing revenge on these hellish creatures for injuring him. Before he could finish his big villain monologue, Wolverine and the boys leap onto the World Conqueror, tearing him open, and commence to help themselves to an all-you-can-eat purple spandex man feast. Upon fully eating Galactus, Logan and the other zombies then level up their cosmic powers and become the next Galactus themselves, traveling planet to planet, completely consuming its citizens, all while in purple cosmic jumpsuits. So, beating Galactus is a lot like a much more messed up version of the Santa Claus. You kill the guy, but you get to become him and get his suit. Sounds like a good plan to me. Wolverine and his new galactic group then eventually find their way to the Skrull homeworld, where they slice, dice, and kebab their way through the Skrull citizens, completely devastating the planet. During their cannibalistic conquest, he and the other Avengers would do battle with a dimensionally displaced Black Panther and Fantastic Four. Panther and the heroes would escape, where Wolvie and his homies would proceed to devour the remaining planet inhabitants. The Hulk then gives the group the idea to tap into the full power they inherited from Galactus, and they then use it to legit eat the entire planet. Man, if you thought Wolverine escaping his hot tub and tearing through the Weapon X scientist was scary, just imagine one who will straight up stab you, eat you, and then eat your planet. Yeah, you know what? I don't want to imagine that. I'm good. Logan and the Cosmic Cannibals then spend the next 40 years going through the cosmos, eating everything and everyone in sight until they reach the edge of the universe and realize that they had picked the entire galaxy nearly clean of life. During his travels, our boy got this sick robot arm with claws in replacement for the one he lost back during the Silver Surfer fight. Not gonna lie, it looks pretty awesome. The messed up zombie family then remember the dimensional machine from Reed Richards and decide to head back to Earth to fix it and access a whole multiverse of unending food. En route to their home, the gang then stop for some fast food and help themselves to Peter Quill's dad, Ego the Living Planet, although a much gooier looking version than what we saw in the movies. Kurt Russell has seen better days. The group then make their way back to Earth, where they discover that Black Panther had survived the infection and created New Wakanda, where he and the survivors attempted to rebuild society. An impatient Hulk immediately jumps down and begins tearing his way through the last few humans, only to be stopped by Giant Man, who demanded him to stop so they would not run out of food so quickly again. He proposed harvesting these humans so they could turn them into a breeding program to create an unlimited flesh source. Upon hearing these hellish words, Spidey and Luke Cage finally come to their senses after all this time and rebel against Wolverine and the zombies who go to battle with them. During the fight, New Wakanda Chief Scientist Reynolds projects a shield around Wakanda, locking Wolverine and most of the other zombies out. Vowing to find a way back in, Logan and the remaining Avengers travel to Reed Richards' Baxter building to get access to the multiverse portal. Upon battling the system's security, the group realized the machine was taken by Forge and was at New Wakanda all along. The infuriated zombies return and go to war with T'Challa and the Resistance. During the commotion, the shield is mistakenly lowered and the undead rush inside to help themselves to some nice survivor sardines. Upon locating them, Giant Man and the boys prepare to feast, only to discover that there is a startling change in their biology. After all this time without food, their desire for flesh had faded, and for the first time in 40 years, the Marvel zombies were no longer hungry. Upon hearing this, Wolverine did not believe it and went to sink his teeth into one of the humans, only for Giant Man and the others to explain the situation. Logan then let the man go, ready to help right the wrongs he and the others had done over the years. However, there was one still very hangry Avenger left, and that of course was the Hulk, who busted through the wall Kool-Aid Man style, ready for some long-awaited meat. Wolverine and the heroes tried to stop the rampaging monster, but he let nothing get in his way and proceeded to brutally murder several of those who opposed him. The carnage only ended when the scientist Reynolds approached the beast and allowed himself to be eaten as sacrifice. Hulk gladly took the dude up on his offer and gobbled him up, while Wolverine and the others watched in horror at the monsters that they had been for so long. Just like his fellow Avengers, Hulk realized his hunger too had faded and he reverted back into zombie Bruce Banner. He pleaded with Logan and the others that the only way to end this nightmare was to kill him. The gang agreed, and they used their cosmic power to blast off Banner's head, marking the end of the once incredible Hulk. Later on, the group would have a memorial for their fallen heroes and work with the survivors to help repair what had been lost. Logan and the remaining Avengers would then gather at the dimensional portal so they can use it to go to different worlds and gather supplies to help rebuild. The mission was co-led by one of the Resistance leaders, Malcolm Cortez, but the whole thing ended up being a double cross by him, who turned the machine on and transported the zombies elsewhere, leaving him as New Wakanda's forced new ruler. While this was the initial end to Zombie Wolverine's story, it would then be revived from the dead in the pages of Marvel Zombies Return. After being transported through the machine, Wolverine and the others would be separated into different parts of the dimension World Z, which was a world very similar to theirs before the infection broke out. Due to this dimensional travel, it altered Wolverine's cells, causing him to lose his cosmic power and made his hunger return, therefore spreading the infection to this world. This caused him to become mentally unstable and would then lurk in the shadows of Japan, eating the city's homeless so he would not attract attention to himself. As time went on, Wolverine became more confident and therefore decided to hunt out in the open, which caused him to track down the kitty pride of this earth, who was being hunted by the ninja crime group known as the Hand. Just when you thought things couldn't get any cooler in a zombie story, they throw ninjas in there. Ninjas make everything cooler. He would then brutally murder and eat the ninjas and set his eyes on Kitty, who was shocked and disturbed at what this Wolverine had become. Just before he could catch her, Zombie Spider-Man located Logan and slammed him into a wall and rescued Kitty, where he told her he was working on a vaccine that would cure the zombies of their hunger. In order to complete this vaccine, he would need a sample of this universe's uninfected Wolverine's blood. After the pair got away, Wolverine continued eating the corpses of the ninjas, much to the horror and disgust of Sunfire, who attacked Logan, sending him crashing into a nearby fight club. Zombie Logan then proceeds to kill several of the heroes in the club, including Sunfire, Iron Fist, Elektra, and even lops Shang-Chi's hand clean off. Nobody does that to my king. He is then intercepted by this world's Wolverine, who vows to put an end to this nightmarish, shambling, and rather stankin' alternate version of himself. The two Wolverines engage in a bloody battle, where they are then attacked by zombie versions of the Hand that undead Logan created. Just when ninjas in a zombie story couldn't get any cooler, they then turn them into zombie ninjas. Marvel Zombies Return, definitely checking all the boxes for me on this one. The pair tear the zombie ninjas apart and then proceed to engage in round 2 of their fight. Kitty Pryde and Spider-Man arrive to the scene, where Kitty assists by stabbing zombie Wolverine in the eye with a stake, where he is then literally cut to pieces by this world's Logan, marking the death of the original zombieverse Wolverine. Spidey then gives Logan the whole story about what happened, which completely blows the man's mind, despite the undead encounter he just had like 5 minutes ago. He gives Spidey his blood sample, who then swings off, vowing to help save everyone. Things seem to be resolved at the moment, until it is revealed that this Wolverine was also infected at some point during the confrontation. Dude, you just need to go Walking Dead style and chop that thing off. We can't have another zombie Wolverine on our hands. Unfortunately, this Logan was infected and transformed into a zombie sometime after this. However, with the help of Spider-Man, he is able to resist his hunger and then teams up with the Wallcrawler, an alternate zombie Hulk, and Rhodey of this dimension, who is the new Iron Man, and they form the new Avengers. The group then goes to war with the other zombified heroes of this realm who wish to spread the virus across the universe. This battle even pit Wolverine up against a zombie version of the Sentry, who is basically Marvel's Superman. During the fight, he was able to gut Sentry's stomach open, causing tons of energy to come pouring out. This then does make me wonder if Wolverine could just maybe cut Superman if he wanted to. I'm sure I'll get attacked for this in the comments, but hey, I'm an agent of chaos. As the battle raged on, this new zombie Wolverine enacted Spider-Man's secret plan when he tossed a jar at the infected. Now, this was not just your everyday jar of dirt, it just so happened to contain none other than Flint Marko's Sandman. Prior to the fight, the new Avengers worked to modify Sandman's body, where they ladened it with special nanites created by Tony Stark that consumed necrotic tissue. Sandman then flooded the area with his body, which resulted in the deaths of all the zombies there, this world's Wolverine included. R.I.P. to Zombie Wolverine number 2.